Welcome back into the Ostrom Avenue podcast. AJ Myers alongside Griffin Bloomstein. The summer series of the Ostrom Avenue podcast has begun. We're officially summertime. It is June 11th when we're recording this Wednesday afternoon. Syracuse women's lacrosse has a new head coach. We're going to get to that right away. And men's lacrosse, also, it's kind of transfer portal season in men's lacrosse. So Gary Gates' group has some new additions. One really notable one that we'll get to. And then men's basketball. I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe now. Their ACC slate came out, so we'll preview that and talk about what matchups and what's favorable and what's not favorable for Adrian Autry's group way down the line in the winter, that is. But Griffin, going back into the summer, how has your summer vacation or summer break been so far?
Summer's been good. We've had a decent amount of Cuse news to look
Yes.
at. The weather's been pretty nice here out in Boston area. Um, but it's been nice, relaxing. Definitely a lot of relaxing um, before the real summer kicks off in a couple of weeks, I guess.
Oh, the real summer. I'm excited. It has definitely been hotter here this week. Channeling the weather talk. This is finally feeling like summer. It didn't feel like summer for a while there because it was still kind of cool, but it's getting pretty hot now. I've been watching a lot of Phillies, a lot of baseball. I always enjoy that in the summer, watching a good baseball game. Phillies aren't doing too great right now, but they're doing better than your Red Sox, and that makes me happy.
Yeah, the Red Sox are slumping a bit, but they've won four of six, which
Yes.
I'll take. It's been a tough year for the boys, considering this is supposed to be the
The
Red
year.
Sox's year. A lot of injuries, a lot
Mm,
of injuries. The
yeah.
Red
Same with
Sox
the
have had to face.
Phillies.
Yeah, well,
Same with the Phillies.
Bregman, yeah, Cutter Crawford,
Mm.
Casas, like tears his knee open. It's been a
Yeah.
rough year in Red Sox camp, but this is like this is the most I've followed the team in a while. Not
Mm,
like I follow the
yeah.
team, but like this is the
Yeah.
most amount of games I'm watching almost like every game, which
Yeah.
is like I mean like 7 to like 13-year-old me, like that's how I was. Like I would
Oh,
watch every baseball game.
yeah.
Almost every baseball game. But the past couple of years just been busy. The team hasn't been great, but like there's so much hype around this team. My guy Roman Anthony, number one
Yeah.
prospect in baseball, got called up.
Yeah.
That's enough baseball. Unless the Red Sox go on like a 15 game winning streak, and then we'll bring him back up again. But
Oh, putting
it's
them
it's
putting them to
exciting.
bed. Putting them to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phillies have been all right. Bryce Harper's hurt, so that sucks. No baseball in Syracuse. That will never be the case, I don't think.
Well, maybe
Oh,
there's
what?
been some chatter, not
What?
not not
Where have you
official.
heard this? Where have
Not
you heard
official,
this?
not official chatter, but there have been some people spewing some thoughts on the old Twitterverse, calling for Syracuse to get a baseball team.
Well, they'd have to add
It,
another women's program, though. That's the
yeah,
thing.
that's the problem. Not a problem, but that's the
The
overlying
dilemma.
ish
Yes.
dilemma, I guess, is that for Syracuse to have a baseball team, one, there's no place for a field,
No.
at least
Oh,
on
and
campus.
they can make somewhere on South, probably South Campus, where the
Yeah, I mean,
soft
they
is.
could they could destroy some of those houses. I mean, don't they want to do that? Anyways, um, they need to build a field and a complex, which is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse is doing a lot of stuff on campus that they're
Already
building,
spent.
so
They've already spent plenty of money,
but they have
like
plenty
the
of money. Who
football
knows?
coach.
Yeah, that is true. Football complex. It's cold, but Boston College, Northeastern, Lemoyne has a team, so like,
Yeah.
where's your excuse there? And then there's some other Title IX issues that Syracuse will have to adjust if they want a baseball team. But I'm just saying, in the past couple of weeks, I have seen some people talking about Syracuse baseball. Nothing real, but
Hmm.
at least it's hopeful.
It's in the air. Well, it was in the air that Syracuse women's lacrosse they would hire a new head coach. They needed to after Kayla Trainer left to go to Penn State, and they got their guy. Regy Thorpe comes over and becomes the fourth ever women's lacrosse head coach. This isn't who people had in mind. If you listen to our last episode, me and Griffin both said Joe Spallina was the clear target. They don't go with him. And I'm not surprised. If you look at the history of John Wildhack and just the history of Syracuse athletics outside of football, they only hire from within. This hire was, I think, Gary Gate was behind it. I think every notable women's lacrosse alum was behind this hire, and they were never going to go outside of the Syracuse lineage. Regy Thorpe played men's lacrosse here at Syracuse. in the 90s. He won a national championship with the men's team in the 90s. He spent 10 years with Gary Gates' staff when Gary Gate was the head coach of women's lacrosse. He has plenty of experience coaching the women's lacrosse game. He's done a lot of work with USA Lacrosse, and then most notably, he was with the assistant coach for Florida for 3 seasons. And then get this, Griffin. Last year, he got promoted to be the associate head coach. If someone can explain to me what the difference between an assistant and associate head coach, I would love that explanation because I have no idea what, even on Florida's website, it literally just said he's promoted to the associate head coach, but he'll still remain as the defensive coordinator. So I don't really know what difference, how much more of a voice he had last season, but he was an associate there last season. It was a Florida team that was really good. And that's where I want to lean at. Defensively, Florida held teams to under 10 goals 10 times last season, which is quite the feat. And it's also a Florida team that only lost 3 games. So he had his blueprint on that Gators program. Now, they did get absolutely smashed by UNC in the NCAA tournament semifinals, 20-4. But outside of that, they played a really good year. And clearly, he's well respected. He's done some really good things with the Florida program. And I think that's kind of that's what Gary Gate and this whole hiring staff looked at. They're like, who's the best Syracuse alum out there right now that's doing great things? Regy Thorpe was that. And it's going to be interesting to see what he does. I don't know too much about his recruiting, and I think that's the biggest worry right now with this women's lacrosse program is that they're losing a lot of those big name recruits to schools down south, to the Clemsons, to the Floridas. And that's something they kind of need to stop if they want to regain success. So that, I think, is his biggest challenge. I don't doubt his ability to coach. I just worry, does this guy have the recruiting chops to make sure that these players from upstate New York go to Syracuse and don't go down south, Griffin?
That's an interesting way to put it. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't disagree with you because you saw Kayla Trainer after she got the Penn State job, she immediately flipped one of her top recruits, a
Yeah.
goalie, to come join Penn State and go away from Syracuse. And Kayla Trainer, if there was one thing she could do really well, it was recruit. And she
Yeah.
proved that the past couple of years. Obviously, there were some outside forces that took some recruits away, um, like Alexis Spallina going to Clemson. But for the most part, Kayla Trainer was a very good recruiter. Now, Regy Thorpe, he's proven that he can coach, and I agree 100% with the Syracuse ties. Like John Wildhack, he what he's proven is that he will hire from within. Like
Yeah.
that's
Other
what
than
that's
football,
what he wants to
football is
do.
the only program that's where they steer away from that.
Yeah, and I mean that's what you have to
That's
do with
work. It
football.
worked. Yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting with him is like he seems like he's Gary Gates' guy. Like Gary
Yes.
Gate trusts
Gary
him.
Gate had
Like
his blueprint on this hire. It's clear.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When he was the associate head coach of Syracuse women's lacrosse as
Yeah.
well. And then he left to go to Florida and took a couple years coaching other things. He's also coached on the men's side of the National Lacrosse League in the MLL as well. He was an All-American. He won a national championship at Syracuse. Like this guy he knows lacrosse. He can play lacrosse. And most importantly, he knows Syracuse lacrosse because there's a big difference from the whole college lacrosse world and then Syracuse lacrosse. Syracuse has to be in that spotlight. Syracuse has to be winning all the time. And Regy Thorpe understands that mindset, that winning mentality. And I think he's going to help restore that to the women's program. The women's program has reached the tournament year after year. They've only missed it once since 2007,
Yeah.
twice if you want to count the COVID year,
Yeah.
but they've still never won it. They've been runner-up twice, gone to the or runner-up 3 times, been to the semifinals a bunch. But the thing is, if you're Syracuse, you want to get back to that national championship. Or for women's lacrosse, you want to get to that national championship and win it. And I think he's going to be a very good leader for this program. The as for the recruiting front, it's interesting because you look in the transfer portal right now for women's lacrosse, and there's a decent amount of names. And for Syracuse specifically, there's a lot of good players that are already in rather the transfer portal.
Mhm.
Starting Olivia Adamson. She injured this year, didn't play after the first couple of games, but she was an All-American, All-Conference team. So not that maybe Coach Thorpe can get her back and get her to
That'd be
remove her
really
name in the transfer
good.
portal,
Yeah.
but that would be a very big start, and that would be okay. He's coming to play. He knows what he's doing. He
Yeah.
knows he wants to keep high level talent. I mean, there's so many. Superior Clark, who was one of your starting defensemen, Acacia Connor, Mackenzie Olson, Megan Rode, Faith Wooters, a lot of veteran seniors and grad students that are leaving this team. Faith Wooters already committed to Florida State. So Syracuse has a lot of young talent that we saw this year just kind of get their feet wet. The question is, do you bring in other players from the transfer portal, or do you focus on developing that young talent, or do you use a mix of both?
Yeah, that would be interesting. And as it is with any first year head coach, I think expectations for year one have got to be, yes, you got to qualify for the NCAA tournament, but I don't think it needs to be go to the Final Four. I think that would be too lofty of an expectation unless you get a
Really?
crazy haul of train. Yeah, I think way too much for first year of asking. I think that would be too much to ask for him to make a Final Four in his first year as head coach. I know that the team is going to be talented. There's going to be plenty of talent on the team, but I think there definitely will be a slight adjustment, especially at the start of the year. It'd be interesting to see how he schedules things out. Maybe he does start out with an easier schedule, unlike years past, where it seems like they play like Northwestern and tougher teams right at the start of the year. And I think
Mhm.
it'll also be interesting to see maybe if he can get some people from Florida to come over. Some younger talent at Florida that maybe don't have a starting role yet that could maybe come to Syracuse and get an immediate role. That I think will also be interesting, but I think it would be too lofty to put high expectations on Coach Thorpe right out of year one.
I disagree a little bit. Maybe not Final Four, maybe not championship weekend,
Yeah.
but
I think
I
anything
th
other than that should be the goal. I think Final Four would be exceeding expectations in year one.
I agree. I agree. But I think expectations should be quarterfinals. Second
Yeah.
round, second round to quarterfinals. I mean, Syracuse, you're always going to have the talent. If you want to be a proven coach, you want to show that you can be the program's leader for years to come. Because that's the thing with Syracuse. Like, Syracuse is the top of the top job. Like, I mean, this is
Yeah.
his alma mater. This is where he was an assistant coach at first. His first college assistant coach was here at Syracuse in 2010. He's from Auburn, New York. He's from the area. So this is the top of the coaching atmosphere. Well, unless you're Kayla Trainer and you want to go over to Penn State, but this is the place to be. Like this is the dream job. And so for him, like Gary Gate coached Syracuse for for over a decade. Like this is the spot you want to be for Coach Thorpe. And I think it will set a very good tone to go out, get a couple players, maybe from Florida, maybe from the other places in the transfer portal, and prove that Syracuse women's lacrosse after a down year is back. Because it was a
Yeah,
down year
it
and
was.
you got to the second round. Second round in a down year. So quarterfinals in a non-down year, I think should be automatic.
Yeah, I don't think next year you should consider it being a down year, but I just think you're still retooling things. You're because he's got to put his blueprint on the team, and you can't do that in one year. Ask Adrian Autry, it's impossible.
Fran
So I think
Brown
it's
did.
well, Fran Brown is a very special case. Fran Brown landed Common Core. So if he lands the best transfer out there, then yes, things are different. But unless he doesn't do that, I think you gotta give him some slack and understand that there's still going to be some growing pains next year, and maybe it won't be until 2 years when you could bring back those expectations of this program should be competing for a national title. I just don't think they're there yet. I think it's going to take time with Coach Thorpe, and again, he seems like a very, very experienced guy. He seems like a very experienced coach. This is his dream job, so I think Syracuse they picked him knowing that this is his final destination. He's not going to be looking for other places to go unless things fall apart or something like that. I think it is another interesting conversation too. That is it always the best idea to hire from within? With basketball, I think that's still up in the air if that was the right decision to go with that. And I look at I'm going to make your reference to your Patriots. They hired from within right after their longtime head coach left, and that didn't really work. So it's an interesting philosophy that Syracuse has gone with.
But there's a difference between hiring right from within,
Yeah.
which the Adrian Autry hire was,
Hmm.
and then hiring from someone who
Yes.
used to play, used to coach for Syracuse, got experience elsewhere at Florida, and then bring him back. Now that's what the Patriots did when they hired Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this kind of similar thing with Kayla Trainer. So interesting enough, some cool dynamics we have there. But I don't think it's not a hire from within. I wouldn't necessarily
True.
call it
Yeah. It is, but he
because
got experience elsewhere. He
which
grew
I
elsewhere.
think which I think is
Is key.
very, very
Yes.
important.
Mhm.
It's not you're not just bringing in the associate head coach. We love that term,
No.
the associate head coach.
Yes,
You're
what is the
hiring
difference?
someone from outside the pro. It's an assistant. It's the top assistant. That's essentially what it is. The top assistant.
Okay.
The number two.
Okay.
It's like
Gotcha.
the
Gotcha. It's like you. I'm
yeah,
kidding.
it's like well, I was gonna say it was like Jerry McNamara to Adrian
Ah,
Autry,
yes, yes,
or
yes,
the Dan
yes.
Engelstad to Adrian Autry,
That's fair. That's fair.
or the
So
Adrian
that's
Autry to the Jim Boeheim. There you go.
yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess was it Alternate
It
Associate?
was
I guess.
Autry. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So that's the deal with Syracuse Women's Lacrosse. They found their new leader. It's crazy. It's only the fourth coach in program history. So best of luck to him, and we'll surely be talking more about Coach Thorpe and hearing from him. You've yet to really hear any interviews from him yet. So as soon as we get some more words from him, we'll bring that here on the Ostrom Avenue podcast. Flipping over to the men's side, transfer portal's wide open for men's lacrosse right now, and Syracuse they've always kind of done a good job getting sneaky guys out of the transfer portal. And they got one from Ohio State, Dante Bowen. He seems like a good guy. He's from Ohio State. He's going to be here just for a year, a grad year. Short stick defensive midi. It's a position of need. Griffin doesn't light up the stat sheet, but he's definitely more of a defensive minded player.
It's someone that you needed to you had avoid. Carter Rice
Mhm.
went to the PLL. He was a short stick defensive guy, and Dante Cole, or Dante Bowen rather,
Mhm.
kind of mixed with Caden Cole. Um, so I was thinking defensive guys. Anyways, Dante Bowen seems like he could fit that list. He's a little bigger, which I kind of like. He's listed at 6'1", 190, which is for a short stick, I think the right size. He's a senior. He's had experience. He played a little at Ohio State, appeared in 12 games,
Yeah.
picked up some ground balls, a couple caused turnovers. Didn't play a lot. Like he wasn't one of their main guys. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do, fight for a starting spot here, Syracuse, because it looks like there will be a door open for him if he wants to play, if he earns a spot for him, rather. Um, not Syracuse hasn't done anything else in the transfer portal quite yet. One
Yeah.
name,
Other than guys then leaving,
yes, there
not
are
guys.
some
No.
guys. Not the only
No. No.
notable one
Burt
is
was.
Jackson Birtwhistle.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, he was injured this year. He got injured one of the first couple of games. That
Yeah.
guy just scores the ball. He doesn't pass, but he scores. Scores a lot. He'll be a asset for some team that just needs a pure scorer because that's what he is.
Yeah.
Are there any names that you're looking for in the transfer portal that you think Syracuse can add?
I'm not sure. In the portal, it's going to be interesting because a lot of these guys with lacrosse, it's they're looking for one more year to get
Hmm.
something out of, and I think that's what you got to look for. Just find those veteran presence that could really help you. I think they do need to find something to replace Owen Hill. So I think they need to find some kind of not lethal attacker, but something that a player that can at least help you score goals. What I think is more concerning is what I'm looking at is the competition.
Hmm.
Maryland, who made it to the Final Four, beat Syracuse rather handedly and looked really good, went toe to toe basically with Cornell. They've added 5 players to their roster. Most notably is Henry Dodge, who, if you remember, when we spoke to Vermont's head coach before Syracuse played Vermont, he was in awe of Henry Dodge. He's like, this is one of the best face-off guys in the country. He's super underrated. He's super good. And he did really well against Syracuse. Even though Vermont lost that game, he held his own. Now he goes to Maryland. I mean, I think you're looking at the Terps and it's like, oh my goodness, it was a great team already. And I think they've already gotten even better.
That Vermont team had a lot of like really good, like they had like 4 or 5 like really good players.
Yes.
The other
Yes.
one that I was looking for, Charlie Pope. He
Mm-hmm.
was a midfielder. Um, for that Vermont team. I was thinking about seeing if Syracuse would get him. He goes to North Carolina, another
Yeah.
one of Syracuse's ACC foes. I was like, oh, well, that guy's not available. And then another one was the Connor brothers. We talked to the Colgate head coach as well,
Yes.
and the Connor brothers were all the talk of them. Um,
They went to Georgetown.
they went to Georgetown. It's just like,
I
well, we'll
know.
we'll have to bring up Georgetown when we talk about basketball because there's the big stories there. But like that was another group. I was like, all right, well, they're probably a package deal, and Syracuse doesn't really have room for both of them as much.
No.
So we'll see what happens
Big
there.
pool for Georgetown.
Big pool. Like Georgetown, they had an up and down year. Um, Ended up playing Notre Dame pretty close.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. I think there was one other transfer that I was like, oh, Syracuse needs to get.
But yeah,
Um,
if the Orange could have gotten one of the Connor brothers, that would have been
yeah.
special. But unfortunately, they didn't. That didn't happen.
Nah, Charlie Pope was the guy that I was like, dude, this
Yeah.
guy's this guy's legit. Like 6 foot 225, like that's a big,
Yeah.
big guy. I wanted Syracuse to go get him. He had a couple of injuries that limited his senior season. Um, but there is one name that I think Syracuse might be an Owen Hiltz replacement. That Syracuse can go attack hard. And he has some ties to Syracuse already. It's Kyle Colsey.
I
When we
was looking
talked
at him
to
right there. Yep.
when we talked to Lars, shout out
Exactly what I
Lars.
was. Yeah, it's
That's our
exactly what I was
guy.
thinking of. Yeah.
Um, he was like, Kyle Colsey's legit. Colsey, like he's
Yep.
a player. His dad,
And he's a
Roy
freshman
Colsey.
too.
Yeah, he was a
He's gonna be a
freshman.
sophomore.
I think he also got, if I'm not mistaken, he got injured.
Yeah.
Let me look at this. Try to find the Virginia website is crazy because they don't do stats right on their main page. Let me try to find it. Um, I think he didn't play a lot because he got injured, but he was a
Yeah.
high rated um 5-star prospect that's got a lot of hype around him. Let me find him. His brother Ryan Colsey as well. I don't think he's in the transfer portal, but
Yeah. I don't think he
Colsey.
played much at all for Virginia.
No, not too much. But like that's a name where he can high rate a recruit, Syracuse ties, like bring him home.
Definitely. Yeah.
Bring him home. And then the other position where I think Syracuse could use a guy is Sam English played like three positions for Syracuse. He was a winger, he was an attacking midfielder, and then he was sometimes a defensive midfielder. So he kind of played three positions himself,
Yeah.
and he's gone. So I'm not sure how many people you're gonna need to step up if that's internally or externally. Um, Syracuse needs to get some guys to help fill that void because I'm not sure it's going to be one person to fill everything that Sam English did.
No, and so I do like the Colsey shot. I think that's something the player you bring in, slot in at that attack position because I think that the Sam English thing's a valid point because he was playing everywhere towards the end of the season. But I definitely think you need to fill something for the Owen Hiltz because now you're not going to replace his clutch factor. I mean, the guy was extremely clutch. Whenever you needed a goal, he kind of turned up and he scored. So that is definitely going to be the biggest hole I think this team still needs to fill. Transfer portal's still open. So Syracuse has some time to fill that void there. That's all the lacrosse talk we've got, but no football stuff right now. I mean, you could debate, who the starting quarterback is going to be, but we're going to hold for August for that because that's when the talk of the town will be who's going to be the starting QB for Syracuse football come that season. But jumping to Ben's basketball, the ACC slate was released for Adrian Autry's group, but before I get to that, it was on the Twitter surface, when the non-conference slate was kind of getting finalized and stuff. It was made note that there is no Georgetown this year. This is the first time in a very long time. I think it's 10 years because the two made a 10-year deal to play each other. That 10-year deal expired. So it's the first time since 2012, which was the first time Syracuse was in the ACC, that they're not going to be playing Georgetown. And I could care less, Griffin. Are you upset that they're not playing
What?
Georgetown? Oh,
You
come
could
on.
care less?
The rivalry is dead. The
It
rivalry is
is
for people that are 50 years and older. I associate Syracuse with Duke as the rivalry because that's what I grew up on. I grew up on watching a packed dome when Duke came to town, not
Duke
when
doesn't even
Georgetown.
care.
Well, now
Duke
Duke
doesn't
doesn't count.
care about Syracuse.
I know, because Syracuse, the program has fallen off extremely hard. So that's why Duke doesn't matter. But for a good stretch there, Duke mattered a lot. That was the creme de la creme. Syracuse and
Yeah,
Duke.
in the days of Tyus Battle and Michael Carter Williams and
Williams,
Michael
yeah.
Benajay,
Yeah.
sure, you can say that rivalry mattered. But
Yeah.
now,
Now,
people more excited to watch Cooper Flag than they were Syracuse men's basketball.
I
This is
know.
Syracuse men's basketball. The fact that Syracuse isn't playing Georgetown is a travesty. I don't care if
Oh,
this rivalry
come
goes
on.
back to 50, 60 years. The fact that
No,
this rivalry does not exist is absurd anymore.
even when they were
People want
playing each other, that didn't exist. Last year, we were not excited when Syracuse and Georgetown played. It
That's
was
because
not like
Syracuse had a bad
rivalry.
team. Syracuse had a bad team.
So does
Syracuse,
Georgetown. Georgetown's terrible.
Georgetown had a rookie that's going to get drafted in the first round. They had an elite transfer point guard, Mac from Harvard. That Georgetown team, maybe they didn't
They
play
were
that
good.
well.
They were
Maybe they
good.
need a coaching change. Maybe they're not that good, but they had some talent. And it's not about the talent. It's about the rivalry. It was,
Uh,
what was it? The 100th time that they've played? And
yeah.
people didn't care?
It's time to move on.
It's time to wake up, Syracuse. If you're gonna complain, I guarantee it. This Syracuse community is gonna complain in 3 years when Syracuse is not playing Georgetown. Right now,
Maybe
show
not.
why you care. Don't you
No.
know? Famous guy once said, "You'll never know what you got till it's gone." In
Who said
Syracuse, this rivalry, you won't know it left until it's gone. I mean, like it's an abomination.
no, it's not. People weren't excited about it last year. No one has been excited about Syracuse Georgetown in a very long time. It just since they're not, it's not a Big East rivalry anymore. You're not, it's not rivalries are made in conference and they're made off of bad blood and recent history. The reason Ohio State and Michigan is such a rivalry in football is because there's bad blood every year. There's no bad blood between the two programs. They're both irrelevant and neither are competing for national titles. Michigan and Ohio State are competing for national championships.
But in sports, what drives people to go to games? What drives attention? It's rivalries. It's hatred.
No one
It's
was at
the
the Dome
love.
last year for Syracuse Georgetown.
I know, and
Nobody
it's
was there.
sad. It is sad that people have given up on a rivalry just because Syracuse has had 5 bad years.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is, but
You
it's
know,
done. The
when the Red
rivalry's done.
Sox were awful for some times, that doesn't mean their rivalry with the
Yeah.
Yankees is over. Now, I'm not comparing Syracuse Georgetown to Red Sox Yankees, the best
Yeah.
rivalry ever
No.
to ever
Cowboys,
exist.
Eagles.
Yeah. What about all those years in the mid 2000s when the Cowboys and the Eagles both stunk?
No, Eagles were great in the mid 2000s. McNabb, Syracuse alum, he was
That
balling out.
didn't it didn't result
Then it
to
was
playoff
Michael.
wins.
Then it was.
Didn't result to
Well,
playoff wins.
it resulted in Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah, we got whooped by the Patriots.
All right.
Anyways,
Back to your point.
back to my point. All right, maybe that was I should have said the you guys actually did make the playoffs for a while.
We were pretty good, weren't we?
Um, mid to early 2010s. How about that?
After there was a Mark Sanchez era in there. That was pretty bad.
Shout out the butt fumble.
Yes.
Anytime we can mention that. Anyways, um, what I was gonna say is that in order to build more hype around Syracuse basketball, you need this Georgetown game. Like
No.
the Georgetown games are the ones that ESPN covers. Like
It was
Syracuse
on
Duke,
ESPN2 last year.
it's better than a lot of Syracuse's other games. Let me tell you that. Syracuse Duke was on like the ACC network.
I think it was still on ESPN. Every Duke game was on ESPN.
That's fair. The main point is Syracuse
Yeah.
doesn't have another rival. They don't.
Right now they
Georgetown
don't.
was the last one.
Pitt.
Pitt I don't.
Geographically, Pitt's their rival.
No, Pitt is not a rival.
Eh,
They don't.
they play each other
No one.
twice every year, so it is technically.
But people don't care. Like it
Yeah, I know
doesn't
people don't
like
care. Well, another
if you
reason
go
people don't care is because the team's not good. If the team was great, then I think yes, then you build up rivalries.
now
If Georgetown was a juggernaut, Syracuse is a juggernaut, then it's a rivalry. It's back on, but it's
the
not.
the
Both programs are in a really down moment at this time.
rivalries should outlast down periods.
Well, this
That
one didn't. This one
it
didn't. They've been
and
down for
and,
the last 5 or 6 years, and it didn't. The
and it's
game
a
had
shame.
no hype around it. And another key reason why they're not playing this game is because it did not. It helped Syracuse. It didn't help them. Georgetown won that game. It was a quad three win for Georgetown. That is not what you want from your non-conference schedule. We both agree on this. You got to
Yeah.
schedule harder non-conference games. Georgetown was going to be an easy non-conference game, and from a Syracuse perspective, you were losing it. You were losing an easy non-conference game. So it just didn't help neither team's resume because it was in that quad three, quad four area, and that's where it would have been this year. I do think it's interesting because at the end of last year's game, Ed Cooley, Georgetown's head coach, did say he wanted to continue this rivalry. But clearly, it just did. They couldn't strike up a deal or anything. I think it's going to be interesting though, Griffin. What other route does Syracuse go for non-conference? They've already got the ACC, SEC challenge. They got the tournament in Las Vegas. You got to fill another one. Yeah, I think you got to get another Big East team or get some Big Ten team or something to fill that void and make it a good non-conference game. Don't make it Cornell or
Well,
you
I
know
think Cornell and
Des
Colgate are
Moines.
givens. They're givens.
Yes, but don't make it Niagara. Make it something more significant.
I agree. It's also like it's gonna be very this Syracuse men's basketball team has a lot of power in their hands. If
Hmm.
Syracuse men's basketball disappoints one more year, like this could be an existential downfall
Oh,
of
well, Adrian
Syracuse
Autry's on the hot
basketball.
seat big time.
Yeah, he's on the hot seat. But like even after if after Adrian Autry leaves, yes, Syracuse is historically one of the best college basketball teams ever in the country.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it, if you're a head coach out there and John Wildhack hits your phone up, hey, ring, 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 this is John Wildhack, come to Syracuse. Would you want to come? Like I know the history's there,
Yeah.
but what they haven't adjusted to NIL recently. We'll see if it
No.
works out this year because it looks like they've spent a decent more money and have a decent uh amount of money put into this team. But
Pressure's on.
the pressure is on. I'm not
And
sure if a head coach right now would want to take this job.
no, it'll be interesting. And Adrian Autry did catch a break because then the ACC slate came out, and per usual, Syracuse plays Pitt home and away. The other team that they play twice a year is UNC. Don't know how much of a break that is, but UNC is not. They're kind of some turbulent times as well. So if you're Syracuse and you can knock UNC off one of those times, that's probably a quad one win. So that's I think that's honestly a good thing. You play UNC twice. I think playing UNC twice is better than playing Notre Dame twice or Boston College twice. So that maybe helps your resume. Other than that, they
Not if
play
you
every
lose
team.
both.
Well, yeah, if you lose both, it's bad. But they play every team except Stanford. No Stanford on the schedule this season for the Orange. That's a
Fine
break,
with
and
me.
that's a massive break. They don't have to go out west. Cal and SMU both come to the Dome this season. So it is basically a traditional ACC schedule, the traditional amount of travel. You don't have any West Coast trip at all. Duke is away, so that big rivalry will not be at the Dome this year. um, and then
Make
outside
sure
of
you
that,
laughed at that one.
yeah,
That
it's your
big that
standard.
big Duke rivalry.
It's your standard ACC slate. Again, Pitt you play twice, and UNC is twice on the calendar as well. I think you get two big breaks there with the no West Coast trip, and then I think you get a good UNC team to play twice. Hopefully, you can knock off once.
The other thing I'm mad about,
Oh, you're
no
mad.
Malik Brown
Yeah,
and
they
no
didn't get.
Quadir Copeland in
Yeah,
the dome. Quadir Copeland in
I
the dome would
know.
have been
It
amazing.
would have been electric. That would have been nice to get NC State at home, but Syracuse has to go to NC State. That is unfortunate. And no, and Georgia Tech is on the road, and that's going to be a big coming home for
Jake,
the
no.
two players.
Yes.
Yeah,
Anthony, not. Wow. We are so out of the mind for Ibrahim Suarez
yeah,
and your point guard, Nathan George.
yes.
So it'll be interesting for them to see how Syracuse basketball does. Obviously, we have a long, long, long time before basketball season starts, right? November? Yeah,
Yes,
so 5 months.
November. November gets going with some exhibitions. And again, the next big thing for men's basketball is what does the non-conference schedule look like? No Georgetown. I'm okay with it. Griffin is in
Disappointed.
shambles.
Shambles. One more thing on basketball before we depart here. It's going to be a big fall for recruiting.
hmm,
Syracuse does not have yet a 2026 commit.
yeah.
That being said, there are a lot of good players that Syracuse has been talking to.
Hmm.
Caden Samuels is a forward, really like him. They're linked to this one kid from the West Coast, which is kind of surprising because
They've
Syracuse
been able to
doesn't.
pull some West Coast, Chris Bell most notably.
True. Look how that turned out.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up old wounds. Um, Anyways, there's some guys that Syracuse is interested in. They're competing with some top dogs. Jordan Smith, he's like the number one player in the class of, number one guard in the class of 2026. Um, he's also got offers from like Duke and Arkansas that he's looking at. But it'll be interesting to see if Syracuse can compete with some of these top schools for these high level prospects. Vaughn Carvalho. 6'6" small forward from Oregon, Wisconsin. Interesting. Never heard of
Yes.
Oregon, Wisconsin. Have you?
No, neither have I. That's a new one for me.
I guess that's not West Coast. That's why I got
Yes.
confused. Oregon, Wisconsin. It's outside of Madison. Anyways, he's a kid. Um, he's a player that Syracuse has been linked to closely. We should get more information in the summer and in the early fall about this recruiting class, the one that follows Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White.
Yeah.
And
Don't forget, it is a big class to come to Syracuse in Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White.
yeah, hopefully they exceed the hype of that 2022 class of Judah
Yes.
Mintz and Malik Brown and Justin Taylor and Chris Bell and Quadir Copeland and Peter Carey. Uh, hopefully they can outdo that class, but only
Yes.
time will tell.
It is also crazy to think that there's only two players returning on the roster, and JJ Starling and Donnie Freeman. The rest is all new. Plenty of transfers, plenty of new guys. And now you kind of have a glimpse at who they're all going to be playing. That's all we got this week on the Ostrom Avenue podcast. Thank you for listening. Summertime, we're not going anywhere. As soon as there's more news, we'll get some football debates in there. That's what's really on the table is football season. And that's what we're ready for. Stay tuned to war.org. We'll have position previews, coaching previews as well to get you ready for what should be a really exciting and fun football season, a different football season. Still unsure of that big quarterback question. And then, of course, basketball season still ways away, but we love talking about it here on the Ostrom Avenue podcast. Be sure to listen to previous episodes. If you want to dive back into lacrosse season, do that. You can listen to anything Ostrom Avenue podcast related, wherever you get your podcast, or at war.org. Until now, enjoy the rest of your summer vacation, everyone. And we'll stay around here on the Ostrom Avenue podcast. And be sure to listen to our next episode, whenever that is, whenever there's news. You know you can rely on the Ostrom Avenue podcast right here.